From Najran to the great modern cities, the dialogue between Muslims and Christians has always been a delicate journey between faith, logic, and intellectual curiosity. Travelers and scholars recall the meetings in Najran where the Prophet interacted with Christian priests, asking questions that awakened reason and exposed the silent contradictions in the scriptures. Today, a contemporary question arises in this same spirit. Does artificial intelligence, this product of modern human genius, find a place in the Qur'an? Technology, which fascinates as much as it worries, raises questions about knowledge, creation, and the soul. Dr. Zakir Naik, with his unique method, delves into the sacred text and universal logic to explore this bridge between past and present, between divine revelation and human inventions. Here, words become instruments of clarity and each verse, a beacon of reason. Imagine for a moment the debates of Najran projected into the 21st century, with robots and algorithms as invisible interlocutors. What fundamental principles of faith might shed light on this technological advance? The Quran proclaims with absolute clarity the oneness of God. There is nothing like Him. Surah 42:11. This statement is not just a theological statement, it is a permanent guide to understanding our relationship with the divine and our perception of the created world. Every human innovation, every invention, every concept imagined by the human mind, whether ancient or modern, remains limited and dependent. Artificial intelligence, this contemporary prodigy that both fascinates and worries, fits perfectly into this framework. Capable of simulating complex reasoning, anticipating responses, learning and perfecting itself, it never transcends divine law, it can possess neither soul nor independent conscience. AI is the living illustration of this Quranic principle. Human creation, even pushed to its maximum, always remains distinct from the Creator, always subject to its limits and its dependence. Dr. Zakir Naik points out that this distinction is crucial when comparing the Islamic concept of tawhid with certain Christian doctrines, notably the Trinity. The idea of three persons sharing a single divine essence, as presented in Christianity, may seem mysterious or paradoxical to those observing from the outside. The Quran, however, has never hesitated to draw a clear line between the Creator and creation. It shows that any attempt to associate partners with the one God constitutes a dangerous confusion. It mixes the infinite with the finite, the unlimited with the limited. In this context, examining AI in the light of tawhid becomes a fascinating exercise. Can human intelligence, even through machines, approach divine omnipotence? The Quran answers in the negative, and the logic of reason supports this position. Every act of human creation, whether a bridge, a piece of music, or an artificial intelligence program, bears the hallmarks of limited intelligence. AI, capable of learning from data, predicting outcomes, and optimizing systems, is a reflection of human ingenuity, but never of infinite wisdom or divine power. It cannot initiate its own existence, nor exceed the parameters set by its human creator. Dr. Zakir Naik emphasizes that this understanding is essential to avoid falling prey to the illusion of technological omnipotence. Humans can create powerful tools, but mistaking these tools for a divine essence would be a serious conceptual error. Quranic logic leaves no room for ambiguity. What is created remains created. What is divine remains beyond all measure. Quranic linguistic analysis reinforces this distinction. The terms used to describe God, Al-Ahad, Al-Qadir, Al-Hay, emphasize not only the oneness but also the independence and self-sufficiency of the divine being. No human adjective or comparison can capture the totality of his reality. The Trinity, on the other hand, according to the Christian interpretation, attempts to conceptualize divinity as a multiple structure, which, according to Dr. Zakir Naik, contradicts the pure logic of oneness. Thus, when AI is confronted with these concepts, it becomes clear that, whatever its appearance of consciousness, it cannot claim either divinity or spiritual autonomy. Every AI function, every calculation, every algorithmic decision is conditioned, limited, and dependent, exactly like every other human creation throughout history. The history of the prophets, as recounted in the Quran, provides a constant example of this distinction between the Creator and creation. The miracles, revelations, and signs attributed to the prophets were never intended to confer divine power on man, but to demonstrate God's power and wisdom. Similarly, AI can perform actions that the human eye considers extraordinary, but these actions are only a reflection of the knowledge and intentions of its designers. No algorithm, no deep learning system can operate outside this framework. This historical and Quranic reflection reminds us that human intelligence, even when augmented by machines, remains an instrument, a tool intended to serve creation and recognize the Creator. Moreover, the Christian Trinity and AI raise a fascinating commonality: the temptation to confuse complexity with divinity. The Trinity may seem theologically complex to comprehend, and AI may seem an intelligence on par with human consciousness. Yet in both cases, the logic of Todd reminds us that complexity and apparent power never mean divine essence. AI may outperform a human in computation, but it cannot outperform infinite wisdom or divine omnipotence. Qur'anic principles teach that recognizing the limits of creation is the first step to understanding God's greatness. Thus, AI becomes a fascinating mirror of human intelligence and creativity, but never a key to understanding or equaling the divine. Dr. Zakir Naik insists, the confusion between creator and creation is the root of many theological and philosophical errors. The Qur'an, through its precise verses and implacable logic, teaches that all human creation, even the most technologically advanced, remains subject to divine laws, limited, dependent, and incapable of transcending the framework of creation. This reminder, applied to AI, is more relevant than ever in the modern era, where technology can easily be idolized, even though it is merely an instrument, a limited reflection of human ingenuity, always inferior to the perfection of the Creator. Every mechanism, every formula is limited by natural laws and human intelligence. Man can create, but he cannot create life or infinity. When we contemplate AI, this fascinating product of our era, it appears as the logical extension of this timeless quest. The first automatons of the Middle Ages, the calculating machines of the 17th century, and the computers of the 20th century already prefigured the human capacity to simulate thought. AI is nothing other than this creativity pushed to its maximum, a tool capable of anticipating, learning, and solving complex problems, but always dependent on the parameters that humans provided. It does not possess autonomous consciousness, does not feel, does not choose. It reproduces and simulates according to programming and data. It is the mirror of human ingenuity, not a reflection of the divine. The history of debates and exchanges between Muslim and Christian scholars sheds particular light on this point. The meetings of Najran, where Christian priests confronted the arguments of the Prophet, illustrate a model that humanity continues to follow, understanding and analyzing creation without ever confusing source and product. These medieval discussions always aim to discern the truth, demonstrate the logic of Todd, and show that human wisdom, however impressive, remains a tool, never a substitute for the divine essence. In this perspective, AI fits perfectly. It is an object of study, an instrument of knowledge and observation, but it must never become an object of worship or a source of illusion. Successive civilizations have always interpreted technology as a sign of the human capacity to understand creation. Medieval Arab astronomers, using precise astrolabes, revealed the order of the heavens. European engineers developed machines capable of calculating complex trajectories or producing coordinated movements. Each advance was a testament to human intelligence, but never a demonstration of divine power. Modern AI, with its sophisticated algorithms and artificial neural networks, follows in this long tradition. It demonstrates the human capacity to observe, analyze, simulate, and anticipate, but it remains limited, dependent, and finite. Dr. Zakir Naik emphasizes this distinction. Admiring human creation is legitimate and even inspiring, but confusing it with the divine would be a profound conceptual error. AI can perform tasks beyond individual human capabilities, but it cannot create the universe, transcend mortality, or know absolute truth. This historical and theological perspective offers us a framework for understanding modern innovations without falling into the illusion of technological self-deification. Every calculation, every prediction, every decision simulated by a machine is a reflection of human logic, not divine wisdom. Exploring the signs of humankind throughout the ages, we see a recurring motif. Humanity seeks to push its limits, to imitate what seems perfect, but it must always return to the evidence of its dependence and its limitations. AI is the most modern sign of this dynamic, a reminder that human creativity can soar very high, but it will never cross the threshold of the divine. The Prophet taught that true greatness lies in recognizing the limits of creation and submitting to divine guidance. This lesson is timeless. Admire AI, marvel at its power, but always understand that it cannot surpass the Creator. AI, in the context of historical narrative, thus becomes a silent witness to human evolution. It is the tangible manifestation of centuries of observation, calculation, and ingenuity. Every neural network, every machine learning algorithm, is the continuation of human attempts to understand the world, but it remains a tool, a sign, and not an object of veneration. History teaches us that uncritical admiration leads to illusion, while analysis guided by reason and faith leads to understanding. Thus, by tracing the journey of man from the pyramids to automatons, from mechanical clocks to modern computers, we understand that AI is only the latest expression of a long human tradition, that of seeking to reflect the order and complexity of divine creation. Each era brings its sign, and each sign testifies to the human capacity to observe, analyze, and simulate. But the Creator remains beyond all simulation. AI, fascinating and powerful, only serves to remind us of the breadth and depth of human ingenuity, while underscoring the eternal truth of Todd. No human creation, however brilliant, can equal or supplant divine perfection. Suspended, where each breath becomes a meditation, where each thought is reflected like a mirror of the soul. At this moment, the outside world, with its machines, calculations, and algorithms, seems to recede, giving way to the intimate confrontation between the certainty of the one Creator and the wonder of human creation. AI, with its neural networks and its capacity for learning, presents itself as a silent challenge to our understanding. It can analyze, simulate, predict, and sometimes surpass individual human abilities. Doubt arises like a light breeze, barely perceptible but persistent. If AI can think and learn, is it closer to God than I am? Can human creation, pushed to the extreme, compete with the infinite intelligence of the Creator? In this inner dialogue, meditation becomes a beacon. Divine consciousness is unique, perfect, and absolute. It cannot be imitated, simulated, or fully understood by any created entity. Every calculation of an AI, every algorithmic decision, every sophisticated simulation is limited by its programming, its data, and its designer. It reflects human ingenuity, but cannot transcend the laws imposed by the material world. The machine, however complex and fascinating, remains an instrument. And the human, with his or her strengths and weaknesses, remains the living bridge between the material and spiritual worlds, the meeting point where reason meets faith, where the finite contemplates the infinite. Meditation invites us to observe without judgment. Doubt is not an enemy but a mirror. It reveals our deepest questions, our fears, and our hopes. In the calm of the mind, it becomes clear that admiration for human creation must never become veneration. AI can accomplish feats, but it experiences no emotion, no conscience, no moral intention. It cannot feel fear, love, compassion, or repentance. Humans, on the other hand, although fragile, carry within them an ethical responsibility, a capacity for choice that goes far beyond simple mechanical execution. This moral conscience is the sign of proximity to the divine, not technology itself. Now imagine an inner landscape where lines of code and circuit boards become rivers of light, where each algorithm unfolds like an intricate pattern in the vast ocean of human thought. Within this poetic framework, meditation reveals the truth. What we call artificial intelligence is a reflection of our intelligence, our limitations, our ambitions. It cannot replace divine guidance, it cannot enlighten the soul or teach wisdom. Faith becomes the light that pierces the shadow of doubt, illuminating the inner space where AI appears as a tool, not a master. Every question about technology then becomes a question about oneself. If AI can learn and evolve, what does it teach us about our own capabilities and limitations? If it can predict, calculate, and simulate, what does it teach us about consciousness, the heart, and the human spirit? In this inner dialogue, the soul realizes that human knowledge, even when amplified by machines, is only a mirror. It reflects the creativity, intelligence, and intentions of its author, but never the divine essence. The Creator remains beyond all simulation, inimitable and infinite, and the role of man is to navigate with humility between the world he creates and the guidance he receives. The meditation deepens when we consider the ethical implications. Can AI decide what is right or wrong? No. It can apply rules, but the wisdom behind those rules still comes from a human mind. Humans therefore bear the moral responsibility for every action taken through the machine. In this context, the inner dialogue transforms into a spiritual lesson. To understand our creations, appreciate their potential, but recognize their total dependence on our will and the limits of the material world. The shadow of doubt becomes a light. It reminds us that conscience, the soul, and moral discernment are the true markers of proximity to the divine, and that technology, however sophisticated, can never replace this essence. Finally, contemplation leads to inner peace. By observing AI as a reflection of our own intelligence, by meditating on its limited nature and our dependence on the Creator, doubt transforms into certainty. The divine essence cannot be imitated, and true greatness lies in humility, in the recognition of human limitations, and in obedience to divine guidance. The soul stabilizes between admiration and discernment, between wonder at human creation and submission to the infinite. The inner dialogue becomes a sacred space where man understands that technology is not a rival, but a witness to his creativity, always conditioned by divine laws, always limited by the framework imposed by the Creator. Two symbols stand across time, the crescent and the cross. They are more than emblems. They represent two worldviews, two paths of understanding. The crescent, a symbol of guidance and light, illuminates the path of thought, where every creation, human or artificial, is subject to divine wisdom. The cross, in some interpretations, evokes sacrifice and the complex union of people in a single divinity. AI, in this symbolic landscape, becomes a metaphor for the tools we forge. It can serve for knowledge or confusion, for awakening or illusion. The poetry of these images prompts us to reflect. Every technological innovation is a blank page on which ethics, faith, and reason must write their narrative. The Qur'an reminds us, "And do not go astray as those before you did." Surah 238. AI, while fascinating, reminds us of our responsibility. We are the stewards of knowledge, the guardians of the tools we create. Dr. Zakir Naik emphasizes that understanding the limits of our creation is essential to avoid falling into the illusion of omnipotence. Qur'anic logic applies. The distinction between the creator and creation must guide our use of AI, so that the technology becomes an instrument of good learning and progress, and never a substitute for divine guidance. Sit back for a moment and observe your own mind. AI is there, fascinating but silent. It mirrors our intelligence, our biases, our dreams, and our limitations. In the face of it, meditation on Tawhid and Quranic guidance reveals inner peace. We are neither slaves nor gods, but aware of our place between creation and the Creator. The inner dialogue between faith and reason becomes the surest path to navigate this digital world, where every innovation must be examined in the light of divine truth.